So by participating, you agree to authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during this live event and consent to consensual use of this recording by DeVry University. So if you do not wish to consent to the recording, I ask that you please don't attend today, but also reach out to Dr. Jenkins to discuss other options. But besides that, let's get to work.
Right.
Okay, so again, I want to say just welcome. It's truly an honor to be with all of you on today, and I do trust that you and your families, that you're staying safe and that you're following the necessary protocols and precautions to remain healthy during our current public health challenges. So as I mentioned, we do have some work to get done today in a short amount of time. So I do want you to get comfortable. I want you to relax and let's enjoy ourselves. Let's also be prepared to take some notes. So grab your pen and your paper to grab some information. And there's also going to be some action that you need to take throughout the course of our presentation. So again, my name is Teresa Page. I'm the Center Dean with DeVry University and Keller Graduate School of Management here in the Atlanta Metro. And I would just like to welcome all of you today to our Manage Through Change, Lead Others with Confidence. So we're going to be talking about change management within an organization, in the workplace, or whether if you're a leader in an organization. So I want to start out with a question, and this is your opportunity to go ahead and start getting involved in our presentation on today. So I'm going to ask you to come over to your laptop, or if you're on your phone, and just be ready to start engaging with me. So let's start out with a question. I want to know, which camp do you belong to? Do you belong to the one that wholeheartedly believes that change is good? Or are you sitting in the other camp thinking, wait, nobody really likes change? So I want to know, what do you think? Is change good or is change bad? So go ahead and start talking to us in the chat. And Dr. Jenkins, if you could let me know if our audience is talking to us. So what do you think? Is change good or bad? So while you're posting your comments in the chat, I want us to understand that the truth is that wherever we lead in the workplace or in our organizations, is that in the minds of our colleagues, change is both good and bad. So there are folks who are excited to move on to something new, and there are others who are completely content to allow things to stay just the way they are. But then there are other colleagues that we work with who are resistant to change, but they learn how to adapt. So chances are the team that you will lead through transitions as well as transformations, they feel very different about change. But no matter how they think, it is up to us. It's up to you and it's up to me to motivate, to support, and to lead our teams from point A and point B so we can avoid as many roadblocks as possible. So let's move forward and talk about our agenda. So for today's agenda, we will address several key areas of change management. We will first define exactly what change management is, and we'll identify the barriers of change and how to lead through different phases. And we'll also talk about ways of being able to enhance your skill set, because I know that many of you are thinking about enhancing your skills, and education might be the way for you to go. So we'll talk about a little bit of that at the end so we can map out a game plan. So when you leave me here today, we will have defined change management and uncovered some of its barriers and how to overcome them. So I would like to enforce that today's workshop really is all about you, and your participation, your experiences, as well as some of your best practices will enhance everyone's experience. So I do ask that you'll participate when requested. So what is change? Exactly what is change? If we're talking about it as a verb, it means to make or become different. As a noun, it's a shift, alteration, it's a variation. In the business world, there are two types of change. we have organizational transitions, and we also have people transitions. Now, some examples of organizational transitions are new processes or procedures that are being put in place, or it could be departments merging or taking on new responsibilities, or it could be that your company is landing a new piece of business. Now, what about examples of people transitions? Well, those examples could be team members either being added or removed, or promotions or layoffs, and possibly new leadership being brought in. So if we want to be successful change leaders, we need to be able to pay equal attention to both of these change types and learn how to effectively manage them. So let's take a look here at the chart. I'm gonna give you a second to take it in. Let's take a look. We're getting ready to discuss the phases of change. So taking a look at the chart, managing transition involves helping people through three phases: the ending phase, the transition phase, and the new beginning phase. It's important to note that these are not linear, and neither is it a logical process, because we're dealing with humans. We're dealing with human emotions as well as human behaviors. So as we see here on the chart, we have general psychological transitions or personal adjustments that people go through during change. So some of those are uncertainty, skepticism, exploration, and commitment. We will also see here this blue line, the little blue line that's dipping through. Now, this line represents performance or productivity. And what happens to productivity as we go through the phase? Well, in the ending phase, uncertainty begins to push emotions negative and productivity drops. And then in the transition phase, skepticism drops productivity even just a little lower. But with exploration, we begin to see a lift in performance, and then it begins to come all the way back up to the new beginnings phase with commitment. So the really interesting thing about change is that it doesn't start with the beginning. It typically starts with the ending. Why? Well, people have to learn how to let go of the past before they can deal with the future. So some of the negative emotions and behaviors that are demonstrated among our teams in the ending phase could be anger over loss, or bargaining to avoid change, denial, or even this decreased involvement. So according to William Bridges, a well-known author of change theory, the failure to identify and to get ready for endings and losses is the largest difficulty for people in transition. So when there are strong feelings of loss during a transition, as a leader, you must identify and deal with these feelings so you can move on and focus on the future. So let's take a look at some of these things that we would need to recognize. A leader should be able to recognize the loss of their team's attachments. So this could be the loss of relationships with leadership or coworkers, or even team chemistry or the identity within the department. Leaders should also recognize the loss of their team's influence. So responsibilities can change, status can be affected, and your team may lose some of their influence. And that could mean having to develop a new identity for a particular person. Leaders should also recognize the loss of their team's structure, such as work hours, office locations, and procedures, and how those may change and affect our routines that we have become accustomed to. As Dr. Jenkins mentioned earlier, in this age of COVID, we are having to work a lot differently, and we're having to be agile to still provide the different type of leadership and service to the individuals or organizations that we serve. We're doing a webinar right here in Zoom and live on Facebook, and I'm actually doing this at home instead of in my office. So leaders should recognize the loss of their team structures. Another thing is that leaders should recognize the loss of their team's meaning. So your team may feel like they are losing their organization's identity, which is a huge change. So let's move forward. So in the ending phase, how can you help your team best deal with losses? Well, there are 4 ending zone strategies, and we're going to discuss those here. So let's start with strategy number 1, commit to frequent communication. So how do we do this? Well, one way that leaders can do this is to reserve time on their agenda for regular team meetings and to discuss what has changed. That is an opportunity to understand how your people are adjusting and what is going right, what's working, what's not working. In other words, you want to feather it into how you operate on a day-to-day basis. Strategy number 2, execute clear, consistent, and transparent communication. Leaders need to be clear about what's changing. And if you don't have the answers, that's okay. But it is important for you to seek the answers out for your team and be sure to follow up. And then strategy number 2, you also want to be sure to over communicate. Share what you know exactly when you know it. Strategy number 3, listen to your team's concerns and practice active listening. You don't want to do all of the talking. Instead, you want to spend time listening and understanding how your team members are feeling and how they're adjusting. And knowing their concerns will also help you as a leader to create a plan to help them to move forward. Strategy number 4 is simply seeking understanding. So the next phase of change, we just finished talking about the ending phase. So now we want to talk about the next phase of transition. As a leader, your goal is to get your people through the transition effectively and quickly. And this can be challenging because you're likely ahead of them with dealing with it and accepting the change, because as a leader, 9 times out of 10, you are already privy to certain types of information or certain types of organizational change that was coming down the pipe. So when it comes to helping people get through the transition phase, you have to give them back what they perceive that they have lost due to the change. So we have 4 circles here. We have control, understanding, support, as well as purpose. So here's some questions just to ponder on for the leaders in the group. And even if you're not a leader, or here's some things that you can think on as well as a colleague with an organization that might be going through change. So for leaders, you want to know, how could you give individuals on your team control, especially when they feel like victims, so they are seeking ways to recover a sense of control? Also, how can you give individuals on your team understanding? When things don't make sense, so they seek out information to rebuild understanding of the timing, the changes, the processes, decision makers, and etc. And how could you give individuals on your team support when people in the transition zone need to feel that they are not alone, but feel that the organization supports them? And you also want to think of ways of how you can give individuals on your team that sense of purpose. When changes can make many of the purposes that once motivate them, they're now irrelevant. So how do you give that individual back that sense of purpose so they don't feel lost? These are things to think about, leaders. So as Henry Adams once said, chaos often breeds life when order breeds habit. Change is a great way to bring new life, new creativity, fresh thinking to your team as well as your company. So here's how we can capitalize on creativity. First, innovate. The transition zone is a great time for creative thinking and for your team to share best practices. What we have done to ensure success and how others can learn from what is working. So self-reflect. Ask yourself, how are you doing personally with changes? As a leader, you also have to process the changes that's taking place in your organization, and especially on how to make sure that they're implemented and they're managed. So are you okay? Are you getting the support that you need to adjust the new way of operating? If you expect others to change, you must lead by example. So if you're struggling, then you need to seek support from a peer, a mentor, your boss, or even an outside resource. Another way to captivate on creativity is to listen to concerns. By becoming a good listener, you'll know how to coach and motivate and helping others to become great leaders. And also share information quickly. Keep everyone up to date and informed on things as they happen. And finally, celebrate quick wins. Openly acknowledging and recognizing when someone on your team is leading in the right way. So let's take a quick moment to recap. We've talked about the ending phase. We moved through the transition phase, and now we have reached the last phase of change, which is new beginnings. The new beginning stage is about getting people to fully commit, as we mentioned earlier, about that commitment, as we see here on the slide. So you want your team to fully commit to the change and to move forward successfully and confidently into their new world. So let's talk about bringing these new beginning strategies to life. So it's important to celebrate beginnings. The same way that we had to give room for endings, it's important to celebrate beginnings and to acknowledge a successful transition. You want to clarify roles and responsibilities to ensure that everyone knows exactly what their new role is comprised of. Provide clear direction. Be transparent and open internally as well as externally. Acknowledge and reward frequently. Reinforcing your team's behavior will help keep them on the right track. And communicate constantly. Inform your people about the why, the what, and how, and listen to their ideas as well as their concerns. And consider how the change integrate into other areas. And here's that word again, these two words again, over communicate. Make your people feel like you are telling them everything. And though these particular instances I'm getting ready to mention are not on the slide, you also want to be positioned to mentor and to coach your team. Employees need to feel that they are continuously learning and growing despite challenging times. And most importantly, be a role model, because all great leaders are also great role models. So Mahatma Gandhi said, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world." Let me repeat that. You must be the change you wish to see in the world. So what we have learned here today, we've taken in a lot of information in a short amount of time, but what you have learned here today will help you and your team take on the challenges ahead. And you're all on the way to becoming more confident, more committed leaders of change. So let's recap about what we talked about. We defined change management, and we also learned how to lead through the ending, transition, and new beginning phases of change. So hopefully by participating in today's workshop, you're leaving with a few key takeaways that you can implement immediately to help others adjust their approach and thinking to change. So you probably have heard the old adage, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So I encourage you to use the tools that I shared with you today and to put them in practice right away. So I would also like to know what you would like to take away with you. What pieces of information or what resources are you going to take with you to help activate or initiate change within your team? If you like, go ahead and post it in the chat, and we'll review those in just a few moments. So now is also another great time for you to ask me any questions. If there's any questions you would like to ask, I will ask that you will also post those in the chat, and I'll be sure to address that before we go, after we wrap up our presentation. So as I mentioned earlier, I know that most of you who are attending today have or currently are looking at developing your skill sets through education to grow your career within your organization. So we're going to look at a couple of things. We're going to map out a game plan. we're going to talk about a few things that you need to consider. So to help enhance your career through education, you need to ask yourself, when will you go? When can you attend classes? What about weekends or evenings or taking classes online, where you still have specific deadlines, but online gives you more flexibility to choose when to allocate your time to your studies? Once you have determined or answered those questions, you then want to see what will work best for you by reaching out to colleges and universities to see what they have to offer and which best matches your needs. At DeVry University, we are adult learner oriented. So we have evening and weekend classes as well as on campus. And we also have the ability of taking classes online. So what will you study? What will you take? What skill set do you need to develop to match your career goals? The best way to determine this is to have a discussion with your manager or even someone in your HR department so they can assist you to determine the skills that you need in order to move forward within your organization. And once you've identified what those skills are, then you're ready to talk to education institutions to determine which programs best fit your needs. At DeVry University and Keller Graduate School of Management, we have broken our programs down into 6 areas: media arts and technology, accounting, liberal arts and sciences, business, healthcare, as well as technology. So you want to build a more powerful you. So you want to consider what level of education will you need to get to that next point into your career. Do you need to complete your bachelor's degree or attain a master's degree? For some of you, you may need to choose a certificate program that allows you to focus in a particular specialization. So you need to consider exactly what it is that you need, especially if there's a lot of change going on in your organization. This may be the opportunity to retool to get the right type of credentials under your belt so you can move forward. So this is my opportunity to go ahead and get some information. I'm going to post it here in the chat. We still have a few pieces of things to discuss, but I just wanted to grab some information. So for those of you who would like to learn a little bit more about DeVry University, I'm going to put some information for you here in the chat so you can take some action. Awesome, awesome. So Dr. Jenkins, can you confirm if you can see that?
Yes, I can.
Awesome, good deal. So ladies and gentlemen, if you are ready to take that step, that education is what you need, then I just posted some information in the chat so you could get that immediate assistance. So you can visit DeVryWorks.com/Teresa P, or you could also visit DeVryWorks.com/Teresa P2 if you're a military or a veteran. Okay, so we've determined, let me close this here. So we've determined when we are going, what program best fits our needs. So what else is there to consider? DeVry University has taken a different approach that is geared towards working adults. And here are a few components that are most important to our working adult students. First and foremost, having that learning flexibility. On-campus, online, and hybrid options are offered to our students. And we also offer our classes in 8-week sessions, which is 6 sessions over a course of a year. You can focus on 1 or 2 classes for just 8 weeks and then move on to your next courses. You also have another benefit that's important to our working adult students is the potential of transfer qualifying course credits. So through an evaluation, you can find out how far your qualifying degrees or previous college credits can take you prior to starting. Another thing that's important to our working adult students is a dedicated student support team. We know that specific resources can help you succeed in school, and we are equipped to support you along the way with our dedicated admissions and student support advisors to our professors, as well as our career services department. Also, another thing that's important to our working adult students is having access to a customizable learning management system. Our campus student portal is intuitive, is engaging, and is customized. So from inside, everything you need to stay on track in your courses is at your fingertips. And finally, and one of the things I'm most excited to share about today is the perks of our corporate education partnership. So if you are an employee or member of an organization that has an active corporate education partnership with DeVry University and its Keller Graduate School of Management, you are entitled to benefits, which includes a partner tuition rate, application fee waiver, as well as deferred or direct billing. I am most excited because we are now an official corporate education partner with IAMB2 Ministries. And their education partnership includes a complimentary Jumpstart course, as well as a 25% tuition reduction and application fee waiver. And the great thing is that these benefits also extends to the immediate family of any of the qualifying members of IAMB2 Ministries. I will also encourage you that if you're not a part of this organization, to speak with your HR department and to find out more about your company's culture of learning and growth, and to see what other available tuition assistance programs are available. So if you're ready to take that next step to speak to an admissions representative, again, you can visit one of the links here in the chat, and you could go ahead and complete an online inquiry while we're still live on today. Or you may also feel free to reach out to me directly, Teresa Page. Again, I am the Dean for our Alpharetta and Duluth locations, and you can reach me at tpage@devry.edu. So we are preparing for our next sessions. Our January 2021 session will convene on Monday, January 4th, 2021, as well as March 2021, which will convene on Monday, March the 1st of 2021. So this is a great time to go ahead and let's start taking those steps if you're looking to enhance your skill set. I would also like to extend the invitation that if you are in an organization that would love to learn more about the value of having an education partnership with DeVry University to help support your talent development goals, I would love to be able to connect with you as well. So please feel free to email me directly, or you can just post your information in the chat and I'll follow up. All right, everyone. So that's my time. It was great working with each of you on today. And for those of you who made the decision to add education to enhance your skill set and grow your career, I look forward to seeing you in class. So I do want you to stay tuned for a follow-up email from me that I will provide to Dr. Jenkins so she can provide you a reference guide in the discussion that we had on today. And I'm getting ready to turn it back over to Dr. Jenkins. But in the meantime, I bid you all great success. I want you to be blessed, be safe, and let's go to work. Back to you, Dr. Jenkins.
Great. Thank you, Teresa. That was awesome. Listen, we have a couple comments in the chat that if you can respond to. You mentioned what was something that they were going to take away with them and carry forward. One was letting go of the past to deal with the future. And that I thought was profound, because that is so true. You know, as long as we're hanging on to the past, it's very hard to move forward in our lives. So you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes, ma'am, most definitely. Actually learning how to let go. It means just that. Oftentimes we do have a lot of changes. So I'm gonna just speak loosely. I know that within our organization that we have had different change models and different things like that as business models, and we have had to do things differently. I will speak specifically to the age of COVID. What has that done for us? We have had to make a quick transition to make sure that our students stay on that pathway to graduation. So that means coming off of campus and making sure that we're working remotely, that our students are learning remotely. And especially from my point of view, I do a lot of business development. So that also means that I had to learn how to shift myself very quickly in an effort to be able to service my education partners effectively by bringing them into a virtual space to make sure that we're still working towards our initiative, our talent development and engagement initiatives. So was it easy to do it? I think in some aspects it was, because we were already positioned because we have been doing online for about 20 years, if not more. It was very easy to transition our students into that space. But being able to let go of the way that we do business and still understand education is what we do every day, service is what we do every day. So I would just say for me personally, change is inevitable. We just, that's the only thing that we just need to understand, that change is inevitable. So having that ability to be agile is what's going to give you staying power, whether it's in the workplace or any other organization or any other place in your life, is having that agility and being able to see what needs to be done differently, learn quickly, learn what strategies need to be done, and then let's just get to it. If you have emotional feelings about it, which is going to come, which is normal because we are humans, work with it. If you need to get support, see what type of internal support is available with your organization, or maybe connect with your mentors so they could give you some perspective, or seek another outside trusted resource to help you through that change. But it's important for us to be able to show up every day, because at the core of leadership is being able to serve others and to continue on with the job. And whatever the mission is of your organization, stay focused on the mission. However you need to get to the mission might change, but learn what you need to learn, skill up, retool if it's necessary, and move forward. But it's most important, just let it go and see the possibilities of what's ahead instead of what's behind. I hope that answers your questions.
Awesome, awesome. I love the skill up. I'm gonna have to use that skill up. So one more point that was raised in the chat. I mean, you're getting some great feedback in terms of how excellent the presentation is and how great it is. One question is what happens when your team has lost motivation due to repeated change? So we know that there's so many changes that have occurred in such a short time. So people lose motivation in that. So what kind of feedback would you give someone who's experiencing that? I've had so much change going on in my team, in my home, in my group, in my family. How do I adjust to that? How do I deal with that? What are some tools that I can use, Teresa?
Yeah, so I would just say, especially if you're feeling all of those change, I can imagine that it can be very emotional. One of the things I would say is definitely self-care. I would start there. Self-care, making sure that you're okay, and that you're getting all of the support you need. So whether it's taking some time off to yourself to kind of think clearly about what it is that you still want to be able to do for your organization, or where it is that you want to go in your career. So it starts with you first. So make sure that you're getting that self-care. And again, if you need to reach out to an outside source, see what might be available with your organization, or even some support that might be available within your community, or talk to a trusted member. I would say inside the organization, one of the things that we pointed out, especially with leaders, is that leaders have to have that active listening ability, and they have to have empathy, and they have to be positioned to be able to answer questions. So it is okay to go to your leadership or your direct manager or your leadership and to ask some questions, and they should be positioned to answer why we're having to do this, what is necessary, where are we trying to take the organization. So it's okay to go and ask those questions, and to make sure that you're getting all of the information that you need so you can get that settled in yourself and continue to be the asset for your organization. So just to recap on that, I would say self-care, take care of yourself first, but then go ahead and have those candid conversations with your leadership. And hopefully they're already doing those things, as we mentioned, either in your team meetings, or even if you need to do that in your one-on-ones, or even if you have to just request a side meeting to get more of an understanding so you can continue to see where your place is so you don't feel lost with the organization. So I hope that helps.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Teresa. Listen, everybody, thank you so much. If you didn't get a chance to join us for the entire presentation today, it is live on my Facebook page, as well as it will be live or a recording will be available in IAMB2 Ministries page. So you can check it out. It's some great tips on change management, information that we all can use as we go forward. and move into 2021. So Teresa, listen, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I mean, I'm like fired up. I got some ideas brewing in my head right now for the next. So listen, we'll be right back here next Saturday at 12 o'clock noon Eastern time. We have another heavy hitter coming in to present some information that we can use. And I know that my ministry caters to the woman, to women in general, but listen, this is stuff that men can use as well, families can use. So join us, just share the link, share it with everybody so that they can come in and get this information. And if they're not available at 12 noon, definitely those recordings or replays will be out there for you. And again, Teresa, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who has joined us today. And listen, IAMB2 is here. Our mission is to ensure that every woman recognizes her true inner beauty and God-inspired purpose for such a time as this. Come on, y'all, let's do this thing together. Let's just take it forward into 2021. Let's just take it by force. We've got to do what we got to do to make this thing happen and to move forward in our dreams and our visions, our aspirations, so that they can be manifest all over the world. Thank you and have a great afternoon.